imbalances and developmental aspects. So we're going to talk about skin cancer and burns. There are about 1,000 at least different conditions and ailments that can happen to the skin. A lot of internal diseases reveal themselves on the skin. Most common disorders are infections, but there are some less common ones that are much more dangerous, and we're going to take a look at those, and that would be skin cancer and burns. Most skin tumors are benign. They're not cancerous. They don't spread. They don't metastasize. You're at risk for skin cancers if you've been exposed to ultraviolet radiation or your skin is frequently irritated. There are some skin lotions that claim to have enzymes that can repair DNA damage. I would not recommend that. I would much more recommend that you use sunscreen to block the UV radiation. The three major types of skin cancer are basal cell carcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma, and melanoma. Basal cell carcinoma is the least malignant and, thankfully, the most common. The cells that originate this cancer are the stratum basale cells. They proliferate and only slowly invade the dermis and the hypodermis. These are generally cured by surgical removal in about 99% of the cases. And here's an image of a basal cell carcinoma. Squamous cell carcinoma is the second most common type. It can metastasize. It's going to involve keratinocytes in the stratum spinosum. It's usually a scaly reddened palpé on the scalp, ears, lower lip, or hands. And now, if it's caught early, it has a good prognosis. It needs to be treated with radiation and/or removal surgically. And here would be an example of a squamous cell carcinoma. Melanocytes, which is a cancer, melanoma, which is a cancer of melanocytes, is the most dangerous type of cancer because it's highly metastatic and very resistant to most chemotherapies.
Amelia Wiggins to the office, please. Amelia Wiggins to the office.
Although there are new chemotherapies coming around that may help in the future. Melanoma is generally treated with a wide surgical excision accompanied by immunotherapy. When you are assessing if you should have something looked at, the early detection acronym is ABCD rule. Asymmetry, if the two sides of the pigmented area don't match. B, border irregularity, if it exhibits indentations in the border. C is for color, contains several colors. Remember, melanocytes produce melanin, so when they mutate, can give you different colored melanins. And diameter, anything bigger than 6 millimeters, which is typically the size of a pencil eraser. Here is a melanoma on someone's ear. Now, going to burns, tissue damage caused by anything, usually heat, electricity, radiation, or certain chemicals. That damage can cause denaturation of the proteins, breaking down of the proteins, and that's going to destroy the cells. The most immediate threat from a burn is dehydration and electrolyte imbalance. Eventually that will lead to, and very quickly actually lead to, renal shutdown and circulatory shock. So there's some ways that healthcare professionals evaluate burns, and one of the more common ones is to use the rule of nines. So what they do is they break the body into 11 different sections, and each one of those sections represents 9% of the body surface. The other 1% is the genitals, which would account for that 1%. And this gives you an idea of the volume of fluid that would be lost from the burn damage. Burns can be classified by their severity. In a first-degree burn, we have epidermal damage only. It's a localized redness, edema, swelling, pain. A sunburn is typically a first-degree burn. In a second-degree burn, you get epidermal damage, but you also damage the top part of the dermis. And a key feature of a second-degree burn is the appearance of a blister, because when you damage the dermis, its junction to the epidermis, they will split, and that will fill with fluid, and that's what we call a blister. So first and second degree burns are also called partial thickness burns because only the epidermis and a little bit of the dermis are involved. A third degree burn, known as a full thickness burn, gets rid of the entire thickness of the skin involved. Here the skin's going to turn a gray-white, maybe even a cherry red or blackened. We don't see edema, and it's not as painful because all the nerve endings have been destroyed, but it generally requires skin grafting in order to repair the damage. So here's first, second, and third degree. First and second on the hand, third on this individual's leg. So a burn would be considered critical if it was 25% of the body with second degree burns. So 9 and 9 is 18, a little more than 2 of those 9 areas. If 10% of the body has third degree burns, so just a little more than 1 of those 9 areas. But that goes out the window if it's the face, hands, or feet for third degree burns. The hands and feet have so many small joints that it's very difficult to get those back using skin grafts. In the face, there's always the danger that the airway has been damaged. Burns are treated with a process called debridement, which is a removal of the burned skin. Antibiotics can help with infections. Temporary coverings can help with fluid loss, and eventually skin grafts for third degree burns. Whoops. So here are those 9s. You see front of your head, the head and the neck make up 9%, the front being half, the back being half. And the lower limbs as well. The front are 9 and the back is 9. You should be familiar with where those regions of 9 are. Developmentally, by the end of the 4th month, the skin of a fetus is developed. It's got a lanugo coat of delicate hairs in the 5th and 6th month. It forms vernix caseosa, a sebaceous gland secretion that protects the skin while it's floating in the watery amniotic fluid. Infancy to adulthood, skin gets thicker, accumulates more subcutaneous fat, sweat, sebaceous gland activity increases, and that can lead to acne. The optimal appearance of your skin is between the ages of 20 and 30. After 30, we begin to see the cumulative environmental assaults start to show. Scaling and dermatitis become more common. As we get older, epidermal replacement gets slower, so skin tends to become thinner, drier, and itchy. Subcutaneous fat and elasticity decrease. That leads to cold intolerance and wrinkles. We get an increased risk of cancer due to decreased numbers of melanocytes and dendritic cells, and the hair tends to get thinner. We can slow some of these down by avoiding the things that we know damage skin. So we could use UV protection, good nutrition, lots of fluid, and good hygiene. And I will leave it at that.